Well, the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission has admitted to a breach in administrative proceedings that's fairly serious. The SEC now admitting that its enforcement staff accessed documents in at least two matters, which is currently in litigation in federal court. One of those matters includes SEC v. Michelle Cochran. This lawsuit challenges the constitutionality of the SEC's in-house administrative law judges and their multi-layered protections. You see, you can't go after these people. It's all part of this administrative state that shouldn't exist in the first place, in my opinion. To discuss this in more detail is the executive director for the new Civil Liberties Alliance and the former chief of staff to Mike Pompeo when he was a member of Congress there on Capitol Hill, Mark Chenoweth. Mark, good to see you.
Good to be with you today.
All right, so tell the folks why this is important. Why do I need to pay attention to this story? Why do I care?
Well, the reason you should care is because this scandal shows the problem with having prosecutorial authority and adjudicative authority within the same administrative agency. And this is a problem across the government. We have gone away from what the founders said, which was to separate, to have separate powers, separation of powers, separate the legislative, the executive, and the judicial. Instead, at the SEC and other independent agencies, we have these powers, the prosecutorial power and the adjudicative power under the same roof. And here, apparently, using the same computer system. And as a result of that, there were staff in the prosecutor's offices who were able to look at documents that were in the that were supposed to only be accessed by the administrative law judges and their staff. That's an ethical breach. It could be a legal breach. It's certainly a scandal of the first order, and it shows the entire problem with the administrative state.
Yeah. Interesting. You know, it's just more of the business as usual inside the administrative state. They do as they please. I mean, let's be honest, Mark, they write their own rules, create their own penalties, they enforce those penalties. This is not how America was designed. We're not supposed to have agencies that create what are in effect laws. They call them rules, but they're laws. When they go to somebody and pick your alphabet soup, agency, whatever it is, they show up with their new rules. If you violate those rules, they can take your money, take your property, take your freedom, and they can show up with people that have guns on their hips because many of these agents for these agencies, unelected bureaucrats, are armed. How did they let this happen?
In their own courts. They can try you in their own courts without a jury. There are no jury trial rights at the SEC if they are trying you in front of one of their administrative law judges. And that's true of many different administrative agencies. How did we lose these jury trial rights? It should never have happened. And we need to get these cases back in Article III courts where they belong, in front of real independent judges, and do away with this problem of having prosecutors and judges on the same team.
All right. Well, I mean, how do we correct it? I mean, that's the real question, Mark. I sit here and I hear it. They have their own judges, their own laws, their own rules. It's like it's a different part of the same country because that's not how it's supposed to work. We're supposed to have elected officials. They can vote on rules and laws and penalties for me or you or whoever, but not just appointed bureaucrats. How do you fix it? Can you fix it?
Well, I think it starts with the U.S. Supreme Court. The SEC v. Cochran case is pending at the U.S. Supreme Court right now. They have not decided yet whether they're going to hear the case or not. There's another case they have decided to hear, Axon versus the Federal Trade Commission. These kinds of cases where the due process problem at the administrative agency is front and center are the kinds of cases the Supreme Court needs to be hearing, needs to be deciding, and needs to be encouraging these agencies to get their house back in order. Now, the Congress has a role to play here, too. It could fix the problem by taking some of these powers away from the agencies. But if Congress won't do that, it's really up to the Supreme Court to recognize that these agencies violate the Constitution. They violate due process of law for people who are being adjudicated in front of the agencies, and they violate the separation of powers.
And they violate the spirit of America, to me, Mark. And that's maybe more important than all of that, because that's, again, this is not how it was designed to have some bureaucrat, empowered to do as they please with no recourse. Can't do anything about it, right? Anyhow.
Well, Thomas Jefferson in the Declaration of Independence talked about the fact that King George III had created all these new offices and sent forth swarms of people to to harass American colonists and eat out their substance. Well, that sounds a lot like the administrative state to me.
Sure does. Mark Chenoweth, thank you for being here. I'm sure we'll talk again soon because this problem gets bigger. It never actually goes away. Thank you, sir.
Thank you for covering it.
All right, coming up after the break, we'll have an update on the suspect for the New York subway shooting. How much prison time could he be facing? We'll talk about it on America's Voice Live.